Good evening, class. For today's lesson, we're going to be discussing the downfall of Kylie Jenner, more specifically, the downfall of her company, Kylie Cosmetics, and how through a series of many strategic marketing failures, it has now gotten to the point that this brand will be going bankrupt in the next 2 to 3 years, and that's being generous. So, in order to do a proper marketing analysis, we're going to have to go back in time to when the brand started, which was in 2016. So, if you're old enough to remember, 2016 was a crazy time on the internet. The Kardashians were just popping off, Instagram was growing in popularity, people were excited. It was the age of influencers. It was just a very different vibe. And if you get it, you get it. If you're too young, you probably won't understand. But it wasn't this curated content that we're seeing nowadays. It was very authentic and people were being themselves. It was honestly a fun time. But we have to remember the context that specifically makes it relevant as to how this company grew so quickly. So if we remember, Kylie Jenner had just gotten lip injections. And of course, her team advised her to not share that they were injections because they knew for probably many years or at least several months that they were going to be launching lip kits. And the product offering of those lip kits was essentially use these lip kits and get lips like Kylie Jenner. If it got out that those lips were actually because of filler, their product offering and the main reason that people would be purchasing it would be gone and non-existent. So there was this frenzy around her lips. People were asking her about it. There was a lot of skepticism about how that happened. Obviously, now we know it was plastic surgery, of course. But we have to remember as well, her fan base was 14 to 17-year-old girls, so they may not have known. There was also something very relevant happening, which was the Kylie Jenner lip challenge. This was everywhere. This made the Tide Pod challenge seem like nothing, okay? So people were running around getting hospitalized because they were putting their lips in vacuum cleaners, they were putting their lips in shot glasses and sucking the air out, and then they were breaking in the children's mouths and they were getting hospitalized. So there was an absolute frenzy that eventually led to her having to admit that it was lip filler because it got too crazy. But this is all very important to contextualize because we need to remember when we're analyzing people that have personal brands, who you are as a person is kind of irrelevant, right? The only thing that matters is how does the public perceive you? And for the average person, most people are only peripherally aware. If I say list 3 things about Kylie Jenner around that time, the average person would probably have brought up something to do with her lips. So then when you make a venture, right, into something like lip kits, the average person goes, oh, that makes sense. That's authentic. And maybe I'll buy that, right? Because it makes sense. It's not completely random. It's not the D'Amelio's making popcorn where people are like, did you guys like popcorn? It makes no sense. That was a very intelligent extension of her personal brand and how she was known in the public consciousness at that time. So, fast forward some time, she starts talking about how she had this issue, right, where she wanted to overline her lips. I'm not like an expert in this, guys, but I know enough. I did some research, right? So she wanted to overline her lips, but she wanted to find a liner that matched the lipstick. Enter the lip kits. Now, the reason this is intelligent is it's not just your average celebrity slapping their name on something and hoping it will sell, which in some cases it does, but there's always going to be an upper ceiling to that, right? Like Beyonce, for example, is Beyonce. She could slap her name on anything and it's going to sell a certain amount of units, guaranteed. In fact, I could probably use my marketing software to predict the lower end to the higher end of how many units Beyonce could sell, and it's going to be a lot. But there's always going to be a ceiling to that, which is why the best thing that you can do if you're building a brand is not the brand cannot live or die as the celebrity influencer, as the anchor, because that person is subject to controversy. That person's popularity can wane, it can go up, it can go down. So it's a very unreliable thing. Think of it as a stock. It's like having one stock, and as soon as that goes down, you're completely screwed. So what they did was intelligent because whether or not it was true, I don't know. They at least approached it in the way that they were filling a need in the market, in the makeup market. And keep in mind, this is 2016. This is way before it became so oversaturated with influencer brands and celebrity makeup brands. Now the landscape is completely different. Had it been launched today, I'm not sure it would be as successful. Actually, I know it wouldn't be as successful as it was. So something else important to contextualize is a marketing term some of you may be familiar with, which is scarcity marketing. This is when marketers utilize this psychology of human beings, essentially, where you want what you can't have, and in order to buy something, sometimes you need that sense of urgency, right? Think of the Stanleys. They're selling out, they're selling out. I have to run to Target to get it. Even people that don't want Stanleys, for some reason, there's like a primal part of you that's like, I need to buy the Stanleys. So they did the same thing. They launched the lip kits and they sold out in 2 minutes. So the average person is like, oh my gosh, she probably made millions and millions of dollars. But you would be wrong. They only purchased 5,000 units of the three products. So only 15,000 units, which is very, very low. Her team, of course, knew that she could sell way more than that. But you get a second wave of PR when you say Kylie Jenner sold out in 2 minutes, because that's just such a crazy headline. So you're getting a second wave of free marketing that's worth, who knows, maybe even $100 million. Yeah, honestly, it could be worth that much because you're getting all of these news outlets. So then you're not only getting the initial publicity from the launch, and then you're getting a second wave of publicity from the headlines of it selling out, and then you're getting a third wave of publicity from restocking the items. So they're really intelligent in what they were doing. So you might be asking what went wrong. And what went wrong was this initial mirage of authenticity that they created through the lip kits and through this being a creative pursuit for Kylie Jenner and through the facade of it filling an actual need. Maybe it actually was filling a need. So people feel like it's actually serving a purpose in the market. That mask started to slip and there started to be cracks. And I think the first crack was then Kylie Jenner admitting that she had lip filler. So then when that happened, all of the news outlets were talking about the ethical issues with you essentially selling a product to young girls saying, use this and be like Kylie Jenner. That's really at the heart of the product offering. But then they're not going to look like that because you achieved that through plastic surgery. You didn't achieve that through your lip kits. Okay, so then they start diversifying. They start making more products because they start realizing that the lip kits probably aren't going to have the longest life. And then we move on a couple years later, and then Kylie Jenner does another strategic mistake, in my opinion, because the entire brand is Kylie Jenner. So then she sold 51% of her shares for $600 million, which is an insane amount of money. And she owned 100% of that company. So she took home $600 million in cash. Okay, I'm sure there's capital gains taxes, but they probably have ways to avoid those. So she cashed out, right? Great job. She's still peripherally involved. But what the parent company didn't realize is, think of that from a publicity standpoint. You have your core group of people who are only buying this product to support this individual, and then you find out that individual doesn't even own the company anymore. It's owned by another big brand. That's not really an ideal place to be strategically, because your original core reason that people were purchasing the product is now gone. Okay. Fast forward. So now you're starting, I'm kind of trying to paint a picture for you guys to see how when the authenticity wanes, so does your celebrity influence, and then that's when the sales start to decline. So we have these authenticity issues. And then another wave of authenticity issues happened with the Forbes article. So Forbes releases an article calling Kylie Jenner the first self-made billionaire. This in itself caused such a huge stir, understandably so, because a lot of people took issue with the idea of calling Kylie Jenner a self-made billionaire, specifically self-made. You can debate this. I tend to agree that I wouldn't really fully call her self-made in the sense that she was born with a personal brand. By the time she was 5 years old, her name, Kylie Jenner, was not just her name, it was trademarked. She was given this personal brand, which, yes, to be fair, doesn't guarantee business success, but it definitely sets you up and gives you a massive head start on any other average person who wants to start a lipstick business, right? You can understand why that upset some people. Of course, her team and Kris Jenner knew that that would upset some people, but the Kardashians love to engage in a marketing concept called calculated controversy, which I will be doing another series on. And sometimes they miss the mark, I think, in that sense. In that case, it worked, but then the mask started to slip further. And it started to slip shortly after the article when Forbes found out that the Kardashians actually artificially inflated their tax receipts. Okay, part two.